Have you ever felt like you're carrying the world on your shoulders? That suffocating feeling that no matter how hard you try, things just don't flow the way they should? I understand. I spent years believing that the answer was in doing more, trying harder, planning better, meditating deeper. I woke up before the sun to visualize my goals, went to sleep with positive affirmations echoing in my ears, and still, life felt like a locked door in front of me. Opportunities slipped through my fingers, relationships crumbled, and that inner voice wouldn't stop whispering, "What am I doing wrong?" Maybe you're in that place now, exhausted from trying, tired of forcing, desperate for a real change that doesn't require more effort than you've already put in. What if I told you there's only one step, a single inner movement, capable of reorganizing your entire reality? It's not another method. It's not another technique. It's not another spiritual practice to add to your already extensive list. In fact, it's the opposite of all of that. It's something so simple and at the same time so profound that ancient masters like Manly P. Hall dedicated their lives to sharing this secret. A secret that isn't about doing, but about undoing. Not about conquering, but about surrendering. Not about controlling, but about allowing. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the only step necessary for life to start naturally reorganizing around you. A step that has the power to dissolve blockages, align opportunities, and restore the natural flow of abundance in all areas of your life. It's not magic. It's not a miracle. It's simply the deepest truth about how reality works. Get ready to release the reins of control and discover the transformative power that has always been within your reach. Since the beginning of time, great spiritual masters have tried to communicate a fundamental truth about the nature of reality, a truth so simple that its very simplicity becomes the greatest obstacle to its understanding. This truth has been encoded in ancient traditions, carved in stone in the temples of Egypt, whispered in the mysteries of Eleusis, preserved in hermetic texts, and passed down through the centuries to those who had ears to hear. But in our modern era, dominated by the cult of effort and the glorification of personal will, this truth has been almost completely forgotten, buried under layers and layers of unnecessary complexity. The truth is this: the universe does not respond to your effort. It responds to your state of being. Let me repeat that, because it is fundamental to everything we will explore together today. The universe does not respond to your effort. It responds to your state of being. The ancient alchemists understood this deeply. They knew that the great work was not about manipulating external elements through complex formulas or elaborate procedures. True alchemy has always been internal. The transformation of lead into gold was a metaphor for the transformation of consciousness, the transmutation from a state of separation to a state of unity. And this transmutation does not happen through effort, but through surrender, not through conquest, but through abandonment. This is the secret that the masters of antiquity preserved in symbols and allegories, knowing that its simplicity would easily be distorted by the human mind conditioned to value complexity. Think of the symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent that devours its own tail. This is not just a symbol of eternity or the endless cycle of creation and destruction. It is also a symbol of the self-consuming nature of effort. The more you try, the more you create resistance. The more force you apply, the more the universe pushes back. It's like trying to open a door by pulling it when it was designed to be pushed. No matter how much force you apply, the door will remain closed. Not because the force is insufficient, but because it is being applied in the wrong direction. This is why so many spiritual seekers end up frustrated after years or even decades of diligent practices. They accumulate techniques, rituals, mantras, visualizations, affirmations, each one more elaborate than the last. Their shelves are filled with self-help books. Their days are filled with spiritual practices. Their minds saturated with esoteric knowledge. And yet that deep sense of peace, that abundant manifestation, that authentic connection they so long for remains elusive, like a horizon that seems to move farther away each time they take a step toward it. Why? Because the secret was never in doing, but in undoing. It was never in addition, but in subtraction. It was never in conquest, but in surrender. What do I mean by surrender? It's not passivity. It's not resignation. It's not giving up on your dreams or accepting undesirable circumstances. The surrender I'm speaking of is a state of consciousness. It's recognizing that there is an infinite intelligence operating in the universe, an intelligence that is present in every atom, every molecule, every cell of your body. This intelligence is the same one that transforms a seed into a tree, an embryo into a human being, an idea into creation. This intelligence knows exactly how to orchestrate billions of processes simultaneously, effortlessly, without planning, without conscious control. Think about this for a moment. You don't need to remind your heart to beat. You don't need to instruct your lungs to breathe. You don't need to teach your cells to regenerate. All of this happens naturally, spontaneously, without any effort on your part. And what if your life could flow in the same way? The Taoist sages call this Wu Wei, the action without effort, the doing without doing. It's like a bamboo that bends with the wind instead of resisting it. It's like water that flows around obstacles instead of trying to move them by force. There is no struggle, no resistance, no control, only flow. Jesus expressed the same principle when he said, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." What he was conveying was not a praise for laziness or irresponsibility, but a deep recognition of the nature of reality. The lilies do not strive to grow. They do not plan their appearance. They do not control their development. They simply are, fully present, completely surrendered to the flow of life, and their natural, spontaneous beauty surpasses anything that human effort could produce. The Bhagavad Gita, that sacred Hindu text, conveys the same principle through the concept of karma yoga, the yoga of action. Krishna advises Arjuna to act without attachment to the results of the action. You have a right to perform your duties, but never to the fruits of your actions. This does not mean acting without purpose or intention, but acting from a state of internal alignment, letting the results manifest naturally, without forcing, controlling, or manipulating. When we act in this way, action flows through us, not from us. We become channels for universal intelligence, instruments for divine purpose, and it is in this state of surrender that we discover true power, a power that does not come from the ego, but from the connection to the source of all creation. The conditioned mind fiercely resists this truth. It has been trained to believe that success comes through effort, that abundance is the result of hard work, that happiness is something to be conquered, pursued, and achieved. This programming starts early, when we are young. We are taught that we must study hard to get good grades, that we must strive to gain the approval of others, that we must fight to secure our place in the world. And so we spend our entire lives in this mode of constant battle, always pushing, always forcing, always trying. And the more we try, the more tired we become, the harder we strive, the more resistance you encounter. It's like trying to swim against the current of a powerful river. You might be the strongest swimmer in the world, but eventually your muscles will tire, your energy will deplete, and the current will carry you away anyway. But what if instead of fighting the current, you chose to flow with it? What if instead of resisting life, you decided to surrender to it? Not as an act of giving up, but as an act of deep wisdom. The paradox is that when you let go of control, when you abandon the struggle, when you surrender to the flow of life, it is exactly then that you find your true power. It's like that moment when you're learning to ride a bike. At first you're tense, stiff, controlling every movement, and that's exactly why you keep falling. But then comes a magical moment when you simply let go, relax, trust, and suddenly the bike seems to stabilize on its own. You're no longer fighting to maintain balance, you're simply in balance. In fact, that moment of letting go is the only step needed, the only internal movement that can reorganize your entire reality. It's not a complicated process. It doesn't require years of spiritual practice. It doesn't depend on your level of esoteric knowledge. It's accessible to anyone, at any time, in any circumstance. It's simply a shift in perspective, a change in your relationship with life. Instead of trying to control the river, you choose to swim with it, trusting that it will take you exactly where you need to go. This is the law of abandonment, a universal principle that the ancient masters understood deeply. When you let go of the need to control every aspect of your life, when you release the reins and allow universal intelligence to guide your steps, something extraordinary happens. The doors that once seemed locked begin to open naturally. The opportunities that once seemed elusive begin to appear spontaneously. Relationships that once seemed complicated begin to flow harmoniously. Not because you're doing more, but because you're doing less. Not because you're striving harder, but because you're allowing more. Not because you're controlling more, but because you're trusting more. The ancient Hermetics synthesized this principle in the famous phrase, "As above, so below, as within, so without." Your outer world is always a reflection of your inner world. If internally you are in a state of struggle, resistance, control, the universe will reflect that back to you in the form of obstacles, blockages, and difficulties. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because it is simply responding to your energetic frequency. When you change internally, the external world has no choice but to change as well. It is a law as immutable as the law of gravity. It is not something you need to believe in for it to work. It is not something you need to intellectually understand to experience. It is simply the way reality operates, whether we are conscious of it or not. The great philosopher and mystic Manly P. Hall deeply understood this principle. In his extensive works on esoteric wisdom and Hermetic philosophy, he frequently returned to this fundamental truth. External transformation begins with internal transformation. He taught that true spiritual work is not about accumulating knowledge, performing elaborate rituals, or mastering complex techniques, but about cultivating an internal state of receptivity, openness, and surrender to the higher wisdom that permeates all of creation. Many of us spend our entire lives seeking externally what can only be found internally. We search in books, in gurus, in techniques, in practices, in external experiences, for the answer to our deepest longing. And the more we seek outside, the farther we move away from the only truth that can truly set us free. The truth that everything we seek is already within us, waiting to be recognized, accepted, embraced. This is a truth that all great spiritual traditions have been trying to convey throughout the centuries. Buddhists speak of the nature of Buddha inherent in all beings. Hindus recognize the Atman, the divine self that resides in the heart of every individual. Sufis seek union with the beloved divine who has never really been separate from them. Christian mystics speak of the kingdom of heaven that is within us. Different words, different metaphors, the same essential truth. The separation we feel from the source, from wholeness, from completeness, is an illusion created by the mind. The reunion we seek does not require effort, only recognition. It does not require conquest, only acceptance. It does not require addition, only the removal of the obstacles we ourselves place in the way. And the greatest obstacle is always the same: our need to control, to force, to manipulate, to direct the course of life according to the limited plans of the ego. I'm going to pause here for a moment, because I feel that something important is happening while you're listening to me. Maybe you're feeling that lump in your throat, that emotion that arises when a deep truth touches something within you. You've been living in this cycle of effort and disappointment for so long, haven't you? How many times have you silently wondered, why do I keep trying so hard, and yet it feels like I'm rowing against the current? You are not alone in this feeling. In fact, this is the exact moment when many give up, thinking that maybe they will never be able to create the life they feel they deserve. I want you to do something simple, but deeply powerful right now. Share in the comments. I let go of control and allow life to flow naturally through me. This is not just a beautiful phrase. It's a declaration to the universe, a shift in the energetic frequency you emit. And something extraordinary happens when we express this in words. First, you acknowledge this pattern in your own life. Second, you help countless others who are reading the comments right now. People who thought they were the only ones feeling that exhaustion from the constant struggle. Your comment could be the light someone needed to see today, the confirmation that they are not alone, that there is another path beyond control and effort. So please, share now. This small act of courage could be the first step toward a deep transformation, not only for you, but for everyone who will be touched by your words. The question that naturally arises is, how do we practice this abandonment, this sacred surrender in our everyday life? How do we transform this theoretical understanding into a lived, tangible, real experience? It's not about a specific technique or method, but about a fundamental shift in our relationship with life. It's like learning to dance with existence instead of fighting against it. And like any dance, the first steps may seem awkward, but over time, The movement becomes natural, fluid, spontaneous. The first step is recognition. Recognize the patterns of control, effort, and struggle in your life. Notice how your mind constantly tries to direct the flow of experience. Notice how you resist what is, always trying to transform the present moment into something different from what it is. Notice how you cling to expectations, to specific outcomes, to particular ways in which things should happen. This recognition is not a form of self-judgment or self-criticism. It's simply seeing clearly, without condemnation, without justification, without excessive analysis. It is witnessing with compassion the patterns that have been conditioned in you since childhood, patterns that you did not consciously choose, but that were absorbed from the cultural, familial, and social environment. The second step is acceptance. Accepting the present moment exactly as it is, without resistance, without judgment, without the need to change it immediately. This does not mean passive resignation or conformism. It does not mean that you should accept harmful or abusive circumstances in your life. The acceptance I speak of is an internal acceptance, a peace with what is, even while you take steps to create something different. It is possible to fully accept the current reality and still move toward a new reality. In fact, it is only through the complete acceptance of what is that you create space for what can be. When you resist the current reality, you become stuck in it, anchored to it by the very energy of resistance. When you accept it, you free yourself to flow beyond it. The third step is trust. Trust in the inherent wisdom of life, in the intelligence that permeates all of existence. Trust that even when you cannot see the bigger picture, even when the path ahead seems unclear or uncertain, there is a greater order at work, an order that transcends the limited understanding of the mind. This trust is not blind or naive. It is based on the attentive observation of life, on the recognition of how, often, what initially seemed like an obstacle or problem ends up revealing itself as a gift, an opportunity, a catalyst for growth and expansion. How many times in your life has something you feared or resisted ended up being exactly what you needed to evolve, to expand your consciousness, to transform into a higher version of yourself? Trust is cultivated through these experiences, through the recognition of the greater pattern that reveals itself when we look back with the clarity of hindsight. The fourth step is alignment. Aligning yourself with the flow of life, with the natural direction of energy, with the spontaneous movement of existence. This alignment is not something you do, but something you allow. It's like a boat aligning with the current of a river, not through effort or manipulation, but through the removal of resistance. When you let go of the oar and allow the boat to naturally adjust to the current, it finds its way effortlessly. In the same way, when you release the need to control every aspect of your life, when you abandon the constant struggle, you naturally align with the greater flow of existence. And it is in this alignment that you discover a form of power that surpasses anything you could achieve through effort. It's the power that comes from conscious cooperation with the forces of life, rather than opposition to them. It's the power of synchronicity, meaningful coincidence of luck, that seems to consistently favor those who are in a state of flow. This is not a power that you possess or control, but a power that flows through you when you become an open, receptive, aligned channel. The fifth and final step is surrender. Surrendering completely to the present moment, to the experience of life as it unfolds, without resistance, without expectation, without a hidden agenda. This surrender is not a surrender to defeatism or fatalism. It is not giving up on your dreams or abandoning your aspirations. It is a surrender to the deeper wisdom within you, a wisdom that knows exactly what you need, exactly where you need to be, exactly what you need to experience for your highest evolution. It's trusting that the intelligence that moves the stars, that orchestrates the cycles of the seasons, that coordinates the rhythms of life at all levels of existence, is also guiding your individual life with the same precision, the same perfection, the same loving care. When you surrender to this wisdom, when you release the reins of control and allow life to flow naturally through you, something extraordinary happens. The obstacles that once seemed insurmountable begin to dissolve on their own. The doors that once seemed locked begin to open spontaneously. Synchronicities multiply, meaningful coincidences become the norm, and you start to feel as if the universe itself is conspiring in your favor. organizing people, events, and circumstances to support your highest expression and evolution. Not because you're doing more, but because you're allowing more. Not because you're striving harder, but because you're trusting more. Not because you're controlling more, but because you're surrendering more to the natural flow of life. This brings us back to the only step necessary for your life to naturally reorganize. Letting go. Letting go of control. Letting go of resistance. Letting go of the struggle. This is the simplest step and yet the most difficult. Simple because it requires no complex technique, no esoteric knowledge, no special skill. Difficult because it goes against all the conditioning of our culture, against all the mental habits we have formed over a lifetime, against all the limiting beliefs we have internalized about how reality works. It's like asking someone who has never swum to float in the water. The mind screams, "If I don't move, I'll sink." But the truth is exactly the opposite. It's the frantic movement, the desperate effort that causes sinking. When you relax, when you let go, when you trust, your body naturally floats. It's basic physics of water, not a special technique that needs to be mastered. Similarly, the law of abandonment is not a sophisticated spiritual technique, but a fundamental principle of reality. When you let go, when you abandon the struggle, when you surrender to the flow of life, you naturally rise, naturally flourish, naturally prosper. Not because you're doing something special, but because you stopped interfering with the natural process of life. And perhaps this is what all spiritual traditions have been trying to tell us throughout the centuries. Perhaps spiritual awakening is not so much about achieving some elevated or extraordinary state, but about returning to the natural state that has always been our birthright. Perhaps enlightenment is not something to be gained through decades of ascetic practices or rigorous disciplines, but something to be recognized here and now, through the simple act of letting go, of surrendering, of allowing life to be what it already is. This does not mean that spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, contemplation, or studying sacred texts are without value. They certainly do. But their true value is not in leading us to some future state of spiritual fulfillment, but in helping us recognize what is already true in the present moment. They are like fingers pointing to the moon, not the moon itself. If we confuse the finger with the moon, we completely miss the point. If we believe that the practice itself is the goal, rather than a means to recognize the truth that is already present, we may spend decades practicing diligently, without ever truly touching the essence of what we are seeking. What I'm sharing with you today is not a new spiritual technique to be added to your already existing collection. It is not another method, not another practice, not another system. It is an invitation to recognize the essential simplicity of life, to return to the natural state of being that existed before all conditioning, before all limiting beliefs, before all patterns of struggle and resistance. It is an invitation to dance with life instead of fighting against it, to flow with the current instead of swimming against it, to consciously cooperate with the forces of existence instead of opposing them. This is the secret that the ancient masters preserved through the centuries, encoded in symbols, myths, and allegories. It is the secret that all spiritual traditions, in their essence, are trying to convey. It is the secret that, once understood not just intellectually but experientially, has the power to completely transform your relationship with life, to dissolve seemingly insurmountable obstacles, to open doors that seemed permanently closed, to bring out potentials you didn't even know you had. And the beauty of this secret is that it is available to you here and now, in this very moment, without any prerequisites, without any special qualifications, without any specific level of spiritual development. You don't need to be a yoga master, a Buddhist monk, a Taoist scholar, or a Christian mystic to apply this principle in your life. You just need to be willing to try a different approach, to experiment with a new way of relating to existence, a way that is not based on control but on trust, not on effort but on allowing, not on struggle but on flow, not on resistance but on acceptance, not on manipulation but on cooperation. And the moment to experiment with this different approach is now, not after you finish another book, not after you master another technique, not after you attend another retreat. Now, in this very moment. Because the only moment in which transformation can occur is the present. The only moment in which you can let go of control is now. The only moment in which you can surrender to the flow of life is this. The past is gone, the The future has not yet arrived. There is only this moment, this breath, this opportunity to choose differently, to be differently, to experience life differently. So what would your life be like if you truly applied this principle in all areas? What would your work, your relationships, your health, your finances, your spirituality be like if you approached them not from effort and control, but from surrender and flow? What would it be like to wake up in the morning without that feeling of weight, without that endless list of things you need to do, without that constant impulse to push, force, control? What would it be like to spend the day in a state of receptivity, of openness, of trust, allowing life to unfold naturally, without resistance, without struggle, without that constant tension that has become so familiar you no longer even notice it? What would it be like to relate to others, not from the need to control them, change them, or make them fit your expectations, but from a deep acceptance of who they are, allowing the relationship to evolve organically, without pressure, without demand, without manipulation? What would it be like to approach your projects, your goals, your aspirations not as battles to be won, obstacles to be overcome, or mountains to be conquered, but as dances to be danced, rivers to be navigated, adventures to be experienced? The truth is, you've already had glimpses of this state. We all have. Those flow moments when everything seems to fall into place perfectly, when the right action arises spontaneously, when we feel completely present, completely alive, completely connected. Moments when there is no separation between the doer and the done, the observer and the observed, the being and the doing. Moments when we feel part of something greater than ourselves, channels for an intelligence that transcends our personal limits. These moments are not accidents or coincidences. They are glimpses of your natural state, of what your life could be all the time if you simply let go of control and allowed the inherent intelligence of existence to flow through you without obstruction. They are like small cracks through which the light of reality shines, reminding us of the clarity that is always present behind the clouds of our thoughts, worries, and struggles. The good news is that you can choose this state at any moment. It is not something you need to conquer or achieve. It is something you allow, something you recognize, something you remember. It is your natural state, your birthright, your spiritual inheritance. All that is necessary is the willingness to let go, to surrender, to trust. This doesn't mean your life will suddenly become perfect, or that you will never face challenges again. Life will continue to bring situations that require your attention, your discernment, your conscious action. But the way you approach these situations can change completely. Instead of meeting them with resistance, fear, or tension, you can meet them with openness, curiosity, and flow. Instead of asking, "And how can I control this?" you can ask, "What is this teaching me? How can I collaborate with what is arising? What is the invitation in this situation?" This shift in perspective, this change in your relationship with life, has the power to transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth, expansion, and evolution. The paradox is that, when you let go of the need to control life, that is exactly when you find your true power. Not the power of the ego, which is always limited, always based on fear, always insufficient, but the power of being, which is unlimited, based on love, infinitely abundant. This is the power that moves the tides, that changes the seasons, that makes the stars shine. It is the power of life itself flowing through you when you become an open, receptive, aligned channel. And when you touch this power, when you align with this force, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins to naturally, organically reorganize, without effort on your part. The right people appear at the right time. Opportunities arise exactly when you are ready for them. The resources you need materialize seemingly out of nowhere. And all of this happens not because you are doing more, but because you are interfering less. Not because you are controlling more, but because you are allowing more. Not because you are fighting more, but because you are flowing more. This is the promise of the law of abandonment. When you let go of control, life reorganizes around you in a way that often surpasses anything you could have planned or anticipated with your limited mind. It's as if the entire universe conspires in your favor when you stop fighting against it and start dancing with it. Remember the words of the ancient sage Lao Tzu, who said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." There is no need to push the river. It knows exactly where it's going. There's no need to rush the blooming of a flower. It will open at the perfect moment. There is no need to force the sunrise. It will rise on its own as it always does. In the same way, there is no need to control every aspect of your life. It will unfold naturally, perfectly, when you trust the process, when you align with the flow, when you surrender to the inherent wisdom of existence. This is the simplest and yet the deepest truth I can share with you. It is an invitation to a completely different way of living, a way that is not based on effort and struggle, but on surrender and flow, a way that doesn't require you to add anything more to your life, but to remove the obstacles you have placed in the way, a way that doesn't require you to become something other than what you already are, but to recognize the perfection that has always been present, just waiting to be discovered. This is the only step necessary for your life to naturally reorganize. Let go. Let go of control. Let go of resistance. Let go of the struggle. And then, watch in awe and gratitude as life flows through you and around you, creating a reality more beautiful, more harmonious, more abundant than you could have ever imagined. True transformation is never the result of accumulating more, whether it's more knowledge, more techniques, more practices, or more experiences. True transformation is the result of letting go, of releasing, of abandoning what no longer serves you, what limits, what restricts. It's like the sculptor who doesn't create the statue by adding material, but by removing the excess marble to reveal the form that was already there, waiting to be uncovered. In the same way, your authentic, full, abundant life is not something you need to build through effort, but something you reveal through abandonment. Abandoning limiting beliefs, irrational fears, patterns of control, resistance to what is. And in this process of abandonment, of letting go, you discover that everything you've always sought was already inside you, always within your reach, always your birthright. The peace you sought through meditation, the love you sought in relationships, the security you were chasing. Through material success, the connection you longed to find in spirituality. All of this is already present in your essential being, just waiting to be recognized, accepted, embraced. This recognition, this acceptance, this embrace is the only step necessary. It is the step of surrender, of abandonment, of giving yourself over. It is the step that transforms your relationship with life, that dissolves the illusory separation between you and existence, that restores the original connection that was never truly lost, only temporarily forgotten. And when you take this step, when you truly let go of control and allow life to flow naturally through you, everything changes. Not because the outer world magically transforms, but because your perception of it fundamentally alters. You begin to see perfection where you once saw only problems. You start recognizing opportunities where you once saw only obstacles. You begin to feel abundance where you once experienced only scarcity. And from this new perception, this new awareness, your external reality has no choice but to realign, reorganize, reflecting back to you your newly discovered inner truth. If something within you resonated with these words, if you felt that small spark of recognition deep in your soul, don't let this moment slip away. This wasn't just another coincidence on your path. The fact that you're here, now, listening to these words, is a sign of your readiness to awaken to a deeper truth about life. If you're tired of fighting, of forcing, of trying to control every detail only to watch your efforts dissolve like sand between your fingers, this channel exists for you. Not as another source of complex spiritual techniques or practices that only add more weight to your journey, but as a space of remembrance, a return to the simplicity that the system has made us forget. By subscribing, you are not just following a channel. You are declaring to the universe your willingness to let go of the reins of control and make space for life to flow naturally through you. Each video we share here is like a mirror to your own inner wisdom, a gentle reminder of truths your soul already knows, but that your conditioned mind may have forgotten. Also, activate the notification bell, not out of a desire to increase views, but because the moments in which these messages reach you are rarely accidental. Often, the video that appears in your feed is exactly the message your soul was seeking at that moment. Also, share with someone you feel is going through this same inner process of seeking, someone who may be on the brink of awakening. Sometimes all we need is one word, one different perspective, for our entire reality to reconfigure. And remember, you have never been alone on this journey. We are many, walking side by side, rediscovering together what it means to live in harmony with the nature of reality, rather than fighting against it. Until our next meeting, allow yourself to breathe, allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to simply exist without the weight of having to fix, control, or improve. You are already whole. You are already enough. You are everything you need to be.